We're going to replay the Tina Peters, Loy Brunson, Juan O Savin did with the girls. Juan O Savin, excuse me, with Jillski, Adriana, the triple recipient of the presidential pardon. And of course, our beautiful MelzieKaye doing this awesome interview about election integrity. Kind of a little bit travel through time here because it's super relevant to now. We're fighting for getting Tina Peters out of prison. And this interview is super relevant. So I'm just going to go right to the replay, let y'all watch it for yourselves the second time around. We should start on this end. And here we go. I'm going to hit play. Oh, you're not in there.
I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord. Soldier in the army. I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord. Good soldier in the army. Well, now when I get to heaven, I'm gonna sing and shout. Be nobody there who can turn me out. I'm talk with the Father, shadow with the Son. Tell him about the meal world I just came from. I'm a warrior in the army of the Lord. Warrior in the army. I'm a warrior in the army of the Lord. Mighty good warrior in the army. Well, I got a mother in the promised land. Don't expect to stop until I shake her hand. When I get to heaven, gonna sing and tell. Please call angels, gonna tone them.
And we have today with us here, we have Juan O Savin sitting in his car, and we have Tina Peters, and we have Loy Brunson, and also my cohorts, MelzieKaye and Adriana, we call her Adge, and I'm Jillski, and I am your hostess here, and we're going to get this show on the road here. So welcome, Juan. Are you with us here?
You're muted, Juan.
You're muted, Juan. Okay, well, we'll just keep rolling here. So today we just want to start it off because we have, with Loy being here today and this whole case heating up here in the Supreme Court, and we really had a really great session earlier today, and it's the court case 22-380 out of the Supreme Court, and it's creating quite a stir around the country right now, especially among patriots, because we're all paying attention to this, and we're hopes today that we can have a really good discussion on this, especially with the fact that we got Juan here and Tina, because we're all it's all intermingled with what's going on here with our elections and this whole thing. And even though it's not, the court case is not specifically about fraud, it's about the U.S. Congress not doing their job on January 6th when they have plenty of evidence. So with that said, Tina, do you want to come in and jump in here and comment on this? Are you familiar with this whole, what's going on here?
Well, I'd like to hear Loy because there's a lot of questions going on. People are pretty excited about, what impact this could have across the country and in our efforts to expose the criminals in the election arena. So I'll defer to Loy first. How about that?
Sure. 100 members of Congress petitioned the other members to pause the certification of the electoral vote, and they wouldn't pause for a 10-day investigation. I mean, that's like going to the police department reporting a crime, and they won't investigate it. So you come back with 5 friends, and they won't investigate it. You come back with 100 friends, they won't investigate it. Well, they become part of the crime. They become accomplices to the crime. So what they did was they violated their oath. They committed crimes by not pursuing at least a 10-day investigation, and they used the Constitution as an excuse not to do it. when members of Congress or Senate held up the Constitution, say, I have an oath here, I've got to follow the Constitution, I have to certify this. They should have said, I have an obligation with the Constitution to pause for a 10-day investigation in order to certify this properly. That's what they should have said. And so we have 388 defendants in the Supreme Court right now, United States Supreme Court, that can be removed from office and barred from holding office the rest of their life. The Supreme Court has this power, and the Supreme Court actually has characterized it with us personally as an emergency petition. So they can completely judge, adjudicate the whole complaint, not just reverse a decision or uphold a decision. So they have the power right now to remove a sitting president, a vice president, and 385 members of Congress, and bar them from ever holding public office again, right down to the local level, including Mike Pence. So that's it, kind of it in a nutshell.
That's pretty exciting.
Anyway, Juan, are you unmuted here? Do you want to jump in here?
Well, I think I'm unmuted. Do you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Oh, good-o. Hey, Tina, it's great to see. Think about what's elapsed over the last year and a half since you and I first spoke, and all the bends and twists in the road. And then who expected this one to come out of left field as an option to stop the criminality of not doing a proper investigation, in fact, blocking appropriate investigation into how our vote is conducted. In your case, you were doing exactly what the law required you to do, what your job title and description required you to do in protecting the vote and looking into any kind of potential criminality, because you had people in your that voted for you into office who had contacted you and said, please don't let anybody touch this information concerning the 2020 vote, protect it. And then when you found out that this trusted build that the Dominion was going to do, there was allegations that somebody might try to change things and cook things inside the computers. So you did exactly what you're supposed to do. You took measures to copy what information was there in anticipation that maybe something would happen. You did exactly your job, and then they came after you. 100 members of Congress did their job, said, let's look at this information, look at the vote, and they got attacked also, and Congress steamrolled over them to go ahead and certify a vote. This is not that different from your case precisely. Is that how you would read this potentially?
That's right. And Juan, what's happening right now also, when I ran for Secretary of State and basically won, but they cheated through the machines, I asked for a recount. And of course, Jenna Griswold did it unlawfully. Well, right now, and this is what I'm working on today, putting out press release and putting out emails to all the clerks. Clerks are getting ready to, by their actions of following the Secretary of State and Dominion's directives, they're getting ready to break the law and break their oath of office. And specifically what's happening right now is there's a mandatory recount in the Lauren Boebert Adam Frisch case, because it was about 400 votes. And the criminals tried to cheat. They were well on their way. And the good thing is the Republican side overwhelmed the vote. And Adam Frisch actually conceded. Now, who concedes when there's a chance at a mandatory recount, or there's a chance at a recount in a race where you're only 400 votes shy? Who concedes in that kind of race? Well, the person that I know you know the answer to this question, but the person that concedes is the one that their party is telling them, we don't want to do a recount, because then they'll find out what we did. So here's what the Secretary of State is going to do again, or plans to do again, and we're calling her out on it. According to Colorado state law 1-1-102 3A and B, it states that before any recount, that in our case, the Dominion voting systems have to be tested for accuracy. They have to be tested. And the way they test them, prescribed by statute, is that the canvass board, the Democrat Republican canvass board members, they choose randomly some of the machines. So let's just say there's 8 machines, and they choose number 4 and 8. Then they go and they get the actual ballot, the law reads the voter verified paper ballots that ran through tabulator 4 and 8, and they sit and they hand count them. They do an actual mini hand recount of the ballots that ran through those machines. Then they get the total that the machine said was the voter intent, and they compare those two. If the machine count and the hand count of the actual ballots, the physical ballots, don't match, then it's prescribed to do a whole statewide recount. And that's what happened in my case. Now let me tell you what they did with me and what they're trying to do. They're using test ballots, basically fake ballots that are marked test on them, because I've done many logic and accuracy tests. And what the logic and accuracy test is you do it before an election. So before an election, by law, you have to, in the state of Colorado and other states, you have to test the machines to make sure they're recording accurately. So people will sit and they will fill out ballots that are marked test, so they can't be used. And they'll fill in with overvotes, undervotes, write-ins, all different scenarios, and feed them through the machine to make sure that the machine is tabulating them correctly. The problem with that is once you have actual voter verified paper ballots, and you have a law that says you have to use those to compare what the machine said, there's no longer any ambiguity about the way you should do this. So she's trying to use these fake ballots to say that, okay, everything's okay, and then go ahead and run the ballots through the tabulator again for this sham recount. We're holding her feet to the fire, and we're saying that's not what the law says. The law says you need to use actual ballots. You need to compare those ballots with what the machine said was their total, and if they don't agree, then it's a complete hand recount, not through the machines.
Well, so Tina, let me dive in here for a second, because I want to go back a little bit. In the primary, you got kicked out of the primary. We knew there was mischief afoot. So we came in, a bunch of us rallied. You did some appearances. And because in order to do the recount, they were requiring us to come up with this outrageous amount of money to do a recount. It was like $250,000. Am I correct?
That's right. It was $256,000, $20,000 of it for Dominion.
So we come up with it at the last second. You pay to do a recount, and then they don't even tell us when they're going to do it exactly. Out of the dark of night, spur of the moment, they let everybody know, we're going to do the logic and accuracy test and then do the recount. So we raised, when I heard that this was going on, and I think you and I talked right at that time, is my recollection, we sent one of our computer guys, Mark, over, and he raced to the location to be there to observe this. And amazingly enough, now you have to picture, before the primary, according to state law, the rules are they have to test all the machines, as you described, make sure they're working right. There's a logic and accuracy test. It's like, for me, I'm a racer. And so you go through tech in a NASCAR race. Everybody makes sure the cars are okay and you pass tech. But then the car or two that win the race have to be rechecked. It's like in horse racing. The horses that win, there's a blood test to make sure there was anything to amp them up and that it was all fair. But if they find that the horse had some kind of steroids put in it, adrenaline to make it run faster, if the car doesn't meet tech and they, like Toyota did a little sneaky thing with the gas pedal and violated the way the cars were supposed to operate, and they got caught after a whole bunch of races once we figured out what the sneaky trick was, and they essentially disqualified a whole season for them at NASCAR. In this case here, when they went in to do the logic and accuracy test there in Colorado, on your race, where we put up $250,000 from Americans from all around the country to help you in your race to see if there was fraud, they couldn't get the machines to work right. They take the machines aside. These supposedly were the machines that had been used in the primary race. They go in, they grab a couple of them randomly, they run the test, and they wouldn't work right. Right? Why? Because they've been tweaked. And they hadn't been tested before the race, and they had run a false group of numbers. And then more importantly, while they're trying to figure out how to make the machines come out with the right numbers, against state law, they had the representative for Dominion present in the room trying to tweak it. You can't have the vendor present when they're doing this logic and accuracy test and the recount. Did I state that right, Tina?
That's right. Well, and in the instruction booklet that they all had printed out and were following step by step was written by Dominion. So here you have a state actor in the fox in the hen house, so to speak, doing something that's completely illegal, instructing the canvas board to do things that are illegal. And then when we went to go through the legislature and all that, of course, all these people have been selected in Colorado, so it's hard to find a good ruling. They said, oh, it's a moot point. They went through all this whole thing. So right now, that's why it's imperative that we let them know ahead of time before they even start this, that you are being notified that this is the way you are to do it. And if you don't, you are violating law. So they tried to make it sound like, well, I didn't let them know soon enough. Well, yeah, I let them know the very first day. They gave me, after I paid them the $256,000, they gave me less than 12 hours. That was 8 o'clock at night. I get an email after we'd walked the check down to the GOP office. The Secretary of State's office. Walked the check down to him at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. 8 o'clock that night, I get that they're going to start. There's 64 counties. As law, I'm entitled to have someone at all 64 counties to observe. You should have seen the scrambling, but the people in Colorado are fighters. And in most of those counties, they had them there. They started the next day at 8 o'clock after notifying me at 8 p.m. the night before. So, then they wanted to ram it through, and then they were like, okay, we're all done, And so this time we're and by the way, as far as my case, they refunded part of that money, but we wanted the rest back, and we want a recount done according to the law. So it says that in the statute, it says that when they compare the ballots from the actual hand count to what the machine said that the tabulation was, if they don't agree exactly, and it's not able to be explained away by voter verified error, then there has to be a mandatory hand recount, and the state has to pay for it. So
and Tina, the reality is there should never have been a general election when they couldn't even get the primary sorted out because you won that primary. There was fraud in the vote that flipped the votes. We saw that in all the computer stuff we did. They went headlong anyway, even when you were there, had people, representatives present that showed that the computers were not giving an accurate count.
That's
they
right.
Could be one vote off in the test, and they were. And then they proceeded, even when the test showed the machines were screwed up.
That's right.
And the vote should be thrown out. They proceeded to do the recount with those machines after the vendor tweaked them again. None of those numbers could have been verified again. Now they've changed all the calibrations, they proceed headlong to the general election without resolving the problem and getting you back on the ballot like they're supposed to. The general election is a fraud against Colorado and against you personally and all those people that voted for you. No one should be allowed to take the Secretary of State's position because the candidate that won the primary on the Republican side was kicked out through fraud, and the person that was put in there in your place was not a legitimate candidate of the people of Colorado. The entire election for Secretary of State should be thrown out the window, and people in Colorado should be showing up with pitchforks to weed out all the shit in that state house there in Colorado that would allow this to proceed forward against the will of the people and their vote in the primary to get a candidate that they wanted on the ballot for the general election.
Well, you're exactly right, Juan, and we are calling them out. Wednesday on the 30th, there was a huge gathering of We the People. And the nice thing about this gathering, where there were people from all over the state, all different, functions. They didn't know who to shoot at, because it was just We the People. And they called out the GOP for not standing up. Not only did they not stand up for me, there was a poll that they had that it showed that I was up 47% through the race, and they would not release it. They told me to resign, to get out of the race. They supported someone that was that is the director and the secretary of CTCL, Center for Tech and Civic Life, that funneled $470 million through to counties that Biden won, the Mark Zuckerbucks, And so the people are not having it anymore. They are not having it. They're fighting back. So thank you.
Tina, I was going to say too, we had our primaries here in Utah, and it's just a captured thing. The rhinos have control of it, and they brought up those dumb clickers for the big U.S. races, but they had paper for everything else, so it was all quick and easy, and everybody could count them. And their clickers were, these are better. Their technology is great. We can get the count fast, and we don't trust them. So everybody, when we got through with our primary here, we felt defeated here to some extent, and we're fighting back. But it's a mess here, so we're getting mad. Everybody's getting mad here. Don't you feel that coming on?
Yeah, I was a candidate for U.S. Senate at the state convention. We have the caucus system with 4,000 state delegates, and some of the people that voted for me complained. You have an option to take a picture of the serial number on the back of the clicker. Well, they were allowing people that had no credentials picking up clickers and voting. And some of the people that voted for me told me that they took a picture of their clicker and their number went to a different candidate at the state convention. So yeah, it's unbelievable.
That happened in Colorado as well. And when it happened in Colorado, they had driven the clickers in from Florida at 4:30 in the morning. The people objected and said, "We want to vote by paper ballots. We have it over here. We have a place to count." They insisted on using the clickers. This is our GOP at the assembly, assisted in using the clickers. And then Mark Cook, Juan knows Mark, he can tell you, then they took those clickers to California and did the same thing over there. It's documented. So,
let's elaborate on that, Tina. Let me slow down for a second here. So at the GOP, the Republican convention in multiple states, they use a private vendor who then does a machine count so they don't have to play with paper for all the delegates that come to decide which candidate that the Republican Party is going to support. So we were kind of keyed up on this, supporting, I can't believe it, Rachel Hamm in California. Beautiful, beautiful, just a friend and a great candidate. So we had a couple of our guys, my chief of staff, Matt Meck, Mark Cook were there, and others, and they were observing how the vote went. So the night before the GOP convention, similar to what happened in Colorado, similar to what happened to Utah,
Mhm.
The night before, they have a little thing where they show all the delegates, here's how it's going to work. And you can see how fair this is. And they have their little electronic clickers. And Mark asked a few questions. Matt asked a few questions. Everybody leaves. The next day, as they're watching how this is going on, the actual count, Mark saw on the television screen, and Matt also, there was anonymous voters. There was also voters that got to wait, give a weighted vote. So you or I might get one vote. They might get 1.5 or 2.
That's right.
And then these anonymous voters on top of it. So Mark asked the vendor, the technician, says, what's with those guys there on the screen? Who are those guys? Oh, they're anonymous. Well, how are they allowed to vote? Well, they're not here, but they're allowed to vote. So you have delegates for the 5,000 people in Texas or the 5,000 people in California, but they get an extra vote and they're off site. They're not even here.
Well, that's what
They get a vote.
That's what those clickers are really designed for. Those clickers are designed for corporations, you know, when you have a board meeting and certain, you know, shareholders have a certain percentage of a vote and that sort of thing. They are not meant for elections. And they'll tell you right in their paperwork, they're not meant for elections like what we were doing.
Well, and here's the key, and this is where I want people to slow down and listen to what I'm saying. The Republican Party is a corporation. The Republican parties in the various states are corporations in that state. And so they have a club. And what's happening is certain members have gotten in that club. And so this vendor is treating it like any corporation, a publicly listed corporation with preferred voters that have extra voting rights. And one of the things the vendor told Matt, was that it's okay the way this is done, because the Democrats do it too. We do it for both sides. Plus, they're doing this for corporations. Do you know what? Before this is all over, I believe we're going to find that a lot of these listed stock companies, where they're getting these people as CEOs and presidents and various positions in the voting stuff, that there's mischief going on to get certain buddies and friends into those CEO positions. And then they take money from these corporations and give it to different groups and operations that wouldn't necessarily be what the general stockholders would agree to or want, but they're getting put in there with a secret handshake deal. And that's what happened in the GOP in California. That's what happened in Utah and Colorado and all these other places. The vote at the GOP is being cooked to favor certain candidates. So whereas the crowd loved Rachel and wanted her as the Secretary of State candidate for the Republican Party, behind the scenes, there was mischief in the vote, and Rachel did not win at the GOP, which means she didn't get funds. She didn't get assistance in her advertising and other things. It was weighted against her. So we're not really just dealing with vote mischief and machine mischief and magic at the vote level within each primary, within each state, at the primary and the precinct level. We're dealing in mischief at the party level to screen out the candidates that Americans actually want, to get this elite class candidates that will do what these party officials want. Before we're all over, we may have to re-look at this and incorporate constitutional Republican Party and eliminate or walk away from the existing clubs that exist, because the controls inside those corporations across the country are part of the mechanism of control in how the elections are run. Before you ever get to a general primary or a general election, the parties are captured, picking who can even move to the top with those funds. We're going to have to walk away from the Republican Party. I don't want to walk away from Republican because the platform is correct in many ways, but we're going to have to come up with a constitutionally focused Republican Party to challenge this corporation. I don't even know if we can get into the machine and fix it. It's so bad. We're going to have to throw it to the dustbin of history also and create new corporations, and everybody exit stage left. Let's go start over, where it's not a captured operation and where our platform is more closely aligned to what a classic Republican Party mentality was going back to the beginning of the country.
I meant to say Tina has a hard stop here, but I would hope that Juan and Loy can stay on and we can segue. How does it tie in where we are with the Supreme Court case?
You know what? I wanted to add to that, because what we were discussing earlier goes right with this, to bring it into what we're watching today happen with 22-380. What they do with these voters and city workers, how many city workers are in Colorado? You know, times that by each city worker that is being threatened their job, and with each city worker, maybe 6 votes towards the Democratic machine or the Rhino machine candidate that they're choosing to put in. You know, besides the fact that they're bribes and they're canvassing and they're illegal, you know, what they're doing. And it really is mind-boggling to me how they've been able to do this for so long. But I cannot believe what they've been doing to you, Tina. But that's why this case is so important with Loy and his brothers, because these corrupt politicians, the ones who are going at people like you, Tina, they're going to get what they deserve, and they're not going to be able to steal, lie, and cheat for much longer. And that's why it's so important. I mean, imagine that. Imagine how many civil union workers they take that person. I'm going to threaten you your job if you don't vote. They just did it with that man over in Nevada. They told him if he didn't vote yay, that they were going to arrest him. So they're still doing it right now. And that's why I think that this case ties into everything that we're talking about here with the corruption behind the voting machines, behind the corrupt Democratic machine, and behind the corrupt politicians that they're putting in place, allowing them to just sit in their basement and campaign and win elections and steal places of others who are rightfully in that, should be in that position.
Absolutely.
Tina, let me just ask one quick question. In reality, this case, it revisits the presidential election, but in its own lane within the state of Colorado. Shouldn't there be a case like this? Because there were Coloradans looking for an investigation of the 2020 vote. And there's Coloradans looking for an investigation of the primary vote. And at the state level, state workers and people are certifying and going headlong into these votes. And they're not doing an honest investigation, just like they didn't do an honest investigation on yours. There must be some variation of what the brothers have done here at the national level that should be done at the state level inside of each of these states: Colorado, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, all across the country.
I think so. Juan. And Loy, let's touch base, because I would love to get a kind of a template for my attorneys on this.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
you know, I know how they work as far as how they've been coming after me. I think we just hit them from all sides, and that's what we're doing right now in Colorado. And we want to take this to SCOTUS. We've already talked about doing that. But if we could not try to reinvent the wheel, and I know we'd have the patriots that would sign on for sure.
Sure. Great. Let's do it. Let's connect.
Okay.
Great. All right. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I have to hop off. We got to get a press release and some emails out to these clerks to tell them they don't want to break the law and violate their oaths. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Love what you're doing. Thank you. And
Love you, Tina. Great.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Keep trailblazing.
Okay. You guys too. Wait, keep in touch with you. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll connect you. So, so Juan and Loy, let's see how we can segue this in to what has happened with the clickers at the primaries, and then how this all segues into what we're facing right now with the Constitution here in the Supreme Court.
Well, we're probably getting a fraction of 1% of lawsuits even happening at the get-go, because lawyers will advise you of their immunity and say it's not going to be fruitful at all to do. So if this case is successful at the Supreme Court and strips them of immunity, then they will be completely liable. Then attorneys will say, yeah, let's go get them. So this immunity stuff has really stopped the First Amendment protected right to petition for redress of grievances on even a local level. So attorneys would then say, hey, bring it on.
It goes back to Rule 11.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
well, Rule 11, it goes back to stripping their immunity.
Yeah.
And it would strip the immunity right down to local level, and then people would be able to sue. And the attorneys wouldn't say, you can't sue, they have immunity. They'd say, you can sue, now you can, because they no longer have immunity. Let's go after them.
Right.
So they've been protected. And that's why there's so much corruption going on, is because they've been protected with immunity.
And the way that they've been protected is using the Constitution.
Yeah.
And hiding things from our Citizens Handbook so we can't use them, and they can keep their corrupt justice system going and feeding the cash cow and feeding their democratic or, deep state machine.
Well, when they say Constitution, they're just flat out lying.
Yeah, they're lying. It's baffling, but I'm so excited for people to see the real truth come out and how important that this case is, because look at people like Tina, good, hard fighters who are actually standing up for we the people and our country, our freedoms, our rights, our justice. They are getting, just like they've been doing the Supreme Court, swept under the rug because of this beast system.
Yeah, and some of the people that might be newer to Tina, here she was doing the right thing and protecting her county, her Mesa County vote. She was protecting the data, and as I had heard it, Juan, maybe you can verify this, but my way I understood it is she was protecting the data. Dominion sent out some letter that they were going to be coming in and doing some maintenance or something. So she asked them simply, is it possible we lose some data? And because it's her responsibility to ultimately protect it, she had an outside group come in, professional group come in and get the data, protect it. And that's what set the whole thing on fire, because now she's got 100% of what went down, and they didn't want her to have it. So she gets arrested for doing her job. I mean, come on.
Well, it's a bit more complex even than that. Tina, asked the right questions, and she used the right person. The person that came out to take a picture. It's literally just like you would make a copy of your computer, a snapshot in time in case you ever have to go back and reset your computer. You've got everything up to a certain moment in time. So they literally just make a photograph, a copy of everything in the computer at that moment. It didn't change a thing. It's just a download of everything there for a record in case you have to go back and reset something or whatever. So she does that. The person that she used is actually cleared, has a clearance inside of the cyber intelligence operations here inside of Homeland Security. A very rare position. This isn't just anybody. So it's not like some riffraff had access to the computer. Then when this happened, after they were done doing this trusted build of her computer, which technically the way the contract reads, because you have to preserve data for 22 months after any federal election. And it's the same in Colorado. It's a state law and a federal law. The fact that they were going to touch the computer could alter something. Her job job title is to protect the vote information until the expiration of that 22-month period since the last election. So when they were going to come in and touch the computer and do stuff, if you look at the way the regulations are set, they actually can't change any data in the computer. The only thing they can do, they can't even change the batteries to retain memory, clock memory, etc. They can only look to test to see if the batteries are still good and make sure it's all okay is the way I understand it on these things. But instead they came in and they literally wiped the entire memory from the voting machine back to zero. Then they took new memory and reloaded it back in, and they selected out of the memory that before they wiped it, they did their own download Then they wiped out stuff that they didn't want. Then they reloaded it with the altered memory. We actually know this because after they left, she had a second hard drive there and did another forensic copy of the computer, of the voting machine, and sent it off to this original person. Now you had comparative data before and after. And I can tell you from firsthand knowledge that there were significant and critically important changes in that data. Now you have a very serious question. Was a crime done when Dominion altered the machine information? Were they in violation of their state contract to maintain those machines and preserve the data in them in the way they operated? Again, we come back to this very case with the Brunson case. The contention is that Congress ran headlong in spite of reports that there were anomalies in the vote that indicated there was some type of foreign interference, that the vote was at risk, and that they were about to act on a false vote count or history that was not the way the voters truly voted, that there had been damage. In Colorado, what Tina observed there was people changing the history after the fact to cover over the trail. Now, you go back, what if Congress on January 6th had done the pause for some period of time? We used the 10-day thing, but that's what they did in 1877. Some places it was verbalized as 10 days, but it didn't actually state a specific number of days. Why? Because what if you get in there and your initial thought is there's nothing wrong, we don't care, and all of a sudden, oh, well, wait a minute. Gee, look at that. Oh, goodness sakes, well, look at that. Is 10 days enough? You might have had to pause and go longer. And where would they have gone for that vote information? Tina's place. And similar. They'd have gone out across America, because where's the vote done? It's not at the federal level. It's precinct by precinct, county by county. If the legislature had done their job, they'd have sent the electors back to their states, and they'd have had the states go back and look county by county, because all votes are done locally, to see if there was problems in the count at the county level. They'd have gone to places like Mesa, Colorado, where Tina's the clerk, and they'd have said, let us look at your machine. We want to make sure everything's good to go. And they'd have done things like what the state of Colorado was doing, that they charged Tina $250,000 to do. They'd have gone in, and the first thing they'd have done is a logic and accuracy test. Does the machine give us the correct count out when we put test ballots in, or is something tweaked in the machine? And like Colorado, when they put the test ballots in, they didn't get the correct number of votes out. The machines were tweaked. They weren't working right. And then the manufacturer had to come in and fix the machines so that they could work right to do the recount. It's a scam.
I have a question. You know, you talk about the foreign intelligence. Okay, so FISA. The FISA Act was created due to electronic surveillance with voting machines, etc. So what are the surveillance laws, and how are they getting past these surveillance laws? Is it because they're using the immunity that should be ours in the Constitution against us? That's what I want to know. I want to know, how does FISA play into this? Because how are they able to get through this when it's supposed to be ours? How are they using FISA courts against us? If Juan, can you answer that?
Well, it's not quite as simple as you might. I think the way you're portraying it's not quite correct. The FISA court allows that investigative agencies like the FBI can spy on monitor the activities of American citizens. And so, for example, there was a FISA court request by the FBI to monitor certain people around President Trump. Papadopoulos was one. Flynn was one. Other people, as though foreign governments were in collusion with them, and that they were working to cook the 2020 election, working with these foreign, Russians. Okay, all the court authorized was that investigative tools from Homeland Security could be pointed at American citizens. You have to have a warrant to do that, and because it was a FISA court, the FISA court is a secret court. You don't get noticed of the hearing. If they're looking at you in a normal court hearing, you get to come in and provide a defense. Even if a grand jury's looking at you, you may be notified that you can come testify at the grand jury, because they're looking at you and they want to hear your side of the story before they decide if they're going to charge you with something. In the FISA court, you don't get to know that they're coming after you and they're looking at you. So it's a secret court, and all of the proceedings are secret. The FBI came in and made assertions about Americans and said they're working for the Russians, and we have a good cause to believe that's true. So we need you judges to let us do an investigation of them without them knowing we're looking at their personal affairs, because the Constitution protects you against searches and seizures of your private books and documents and affairs, unless, a court authorizes it for various reasons with a subpoena. So the other thing about a FISA court is it's more... Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you real quick. Loy has a hard stop here. I'm really sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. But Loy wants to do you want to say goodbye to everybody?
You guys are amazing, wonderful. Thank you for this opportunity.
And we hope you come back with updates, and we'll get a hold of Juan.
Loy, I wouldn't have talked. I'd let you talk. My gosh.
Oh, no, that's fine. No, this is good stuff. I'd rather hear you than hear me.
So anyway, we would love to have you back on Hammer Time. And Juan, we would love to have you back with him, because it's great to hear both of you guys discuss this stuff. So
I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, Lon.
See you tomorrow.
Safe travels, and thank you so much.
I'll send you your booking information so you know where you're at, okay?
Okay, great.
I'll shoot that over to you here shortly.
Oh, super. Great. Thank you. All right.
Thank you. Hey, Juan, before you keep going about that, can't the foreign intelligence, can't that...
Like anybody be able to talk with Juan there.
Be the powers that be that are manipulating our elections? Can't they be the domestic terrorists inside of our country?
It's not really. I don't think that's an accurate way of looking at it.
Okay.
The FISA court authorizes. Oh, we got an echo in here too. By the way, somebody's got something on. There you go. The FISA court allows for monitoring investigation of Americans. The tricky thing, where I was just going to go a moment ago, is that when the FISA court is looking at an individual, it has an extended power to go out 3 people past you. So if they have a FISA court ruling that allows them to look at Papadopoulos, and then Papadopoulos, communicates with another person, and that person then communicates with me or you or somebody else, they can go out 3 layers deep and look at everything in their contacts. Because in the spy world, most of the work, the real work, the hardest work, isn't done by officers, direct employees of any of these governments. It's done by people that they are working. It's the officers, the actual employees, and then you have operatives or agents of those employees, contractors, people that they have co-opted, the secretary for some big corporation, the secretary for an office holder in political office. And they may have it direct, or for example, maybe it's indirect. In the Seth Rich situation, Seth worked for the DNC. He was so pissed off at what happened when they cheated Bernie and cheated him in the primary, by the way, so that Hillary could get in. Cheated him in the within the Democratic Party, that he copied the information in the DNC computers. And then he wasn't quite as sophisticated as his brother, so he gave his brother the data that he downloaded from the computers over at the DNC, allegedly, said for legal reasons, allegedly. And then his brother conveyed it to WikiLeaks. Well, if I'm looking just at Seth, I only see what he might have done in his phone communications, etc. If I'm looking at Seth and then his brother, I might see other connections that could potentially be it. If I look at Seth and his brother and I see his brother's connecting with somebody connected to WikiLeaks, now I have enough pieces to figure out where this data got sent to. And in the intelligence world, you've got to be able to go a couple of layers deeper. And so the FISA court allows that the court can authorize surveillance of an individual and out beyond that individual 3 layers deep.
So that's why you're saying just like they did that with Trump. So is it safe to say they created FISA and the FISA courts just to do this type of spy intelligence, just so they can manipulate elections, so they can have that immunity and that type of data behind them to keep it secret from us? Is it safe to say that?
I don't think that's accurate. I don't think it's accurate, and here's why. Oh, we got the echo there. I don't think that's accurate, and here's why. The FISA court isn't where the manipulation of the elections is occurring. The manipulation of the elections is occurring at the officials that are running these elections. The way the secretaries of state decide to do voter registration through the vehicle, the driver's license database, through the mail-in ballots, through the drop boxes, all those kinds of things. And that doesn't really fall within the purview of the FISA court. The FISA court is just a surveillance court. If we wanted to look for Chinese interference, we might use a FISA court to monitor the activities at some of these voting officials who are U.S. citizens and are protected from unwarranted, unlegally authorized searches. We might use a FISA court to monitor activities, but they're not monitoring them to cancel the elections or do whatever. And they're not changing the elections through some action of the court. I think it's a misunderstanding of how that court works or what it authorizes precisely.
Okay, so then my next question, what do you, how can you explain FISA equals start?
Equals start in what sense? I'm not sure.
I've seen a lot of, within the movement, a lot of people saying FISA equals start from a lot of drops from Q. So I'm wondering, what can that prefix to all of this that's happening right now? Because it seems that they have been using immunity, and I've listened to everything that you said about the FISA and stuff, but it still seems that they are using the FISA court to manipulate elections and stuff and use patronage on people and to spy on these individuals who are not not the people that they want to prop up, so they can try to monetize them, just like they did for Trump, right?
Okay,
so,
let me hit the
I'm just trying to really grasp this.
No,
here.
I got it. I understand what your question is now.
Yeah.
Hit that mute button and I'll explain it. So when we say FISA equals start, when the court was asked to authorize surveillance on Trump and people around Trump, that was the start of the crimes against American citizens, because it was under a false pretense that the court was asked to allow surveillance of Trump and the people around him as though there was a Russian collusion thing, when there wasn't any truth to it. And they knew the allegations in the Steele dossier were fallacious. The FBI knew that the allegations of Russian collusion into the Trump campaign and into people around Trump was fallacious. That was the start of the campaign against Trump on a false narrative, where they go on this fishing expedition looking for anything they could possibly drum up to construe that Trump was, working with the Russians. And of course, one of the things they've tried to plant this evidence on the servers over at the bank about Trump, communicating information back to Russia and back and forth for the campaign. It turned out to be completely fallacious. Even the dossier itself, by the way, where did the dossier come from? It was out of England. Who's the fight with ultimately that we're in right now? For all of the players and the globalists and everybody else that we're in a fight with, where was it that Stroke and Page went to get the dossier? And McCain's little buddy, where did he go to get the dossier and then feed it back into the media here and into the political class here to attack Trump with this fallacious dossier? They went to the city of London, the city within a city. The city of London, just so people understand what that is, there's only one place on planet Earth where Queen Elizabeth had to curtsy and bow to anyone. What, the Queen of England? She curtsies and bows to somebody? Yeah, only one person. Once a year, she was required to go to the city of London, which is the 1 square mile where all the international banks have their offices, little Rothschild holding. She had to go to the gate of the city, remove her shoes, because she's entering on holy ground, and then walk into the city, present herself to the Lord Mayor of the City of London, the banking community, curtsy and bow to the mayor. That's who the real power was behind the throne, the Queen of England. And once a year, she had the formality of showing who the real rulers of the world are, even greater than any of the royalty, the royal families, including the Queen of England. Now, that is the city where Stroke and Page, McCain's little buddy, all these people went to get their copy of the dossier. Who is America really fighting? Remember when President Trump visited England and accidentally stepped in front of the Queen when they were making a turn? That was no accident. We're not kissing ass with the Queen or anybody else. America's not going to play that game anymore. These globalistas wanted us to fall into line to their lead in a global order. And this administration of President Trump wasn't playing the game. That's why they hate him so bad. He's not playing the game as a member of their club. And that's why they had to take him out. And when they use FISA and the FISA courts to surveil the people around him and then put this dossier out there and then have the FBI accept it as, oh, look, Russian collusion. Look, we have evidence. They go to the court. There might be evidence that the Russians are trying to get into the American political system and control our elections. And Trump's part of it. He's in on the scam. That was the start of the attack on the American electoral system during the Trump phase of this. And then they didn't expect what happened, which was the American people showed up in such vast numbers that they hadn't cooked the books adequately to overcome as large of an operation where Trump's people showed up to vote for him in 2016. They had plans to cook the vote. They just didn't think big enough because they didn't imagine Trump could win with such amazing numbers. Remember, in the last 2 weeks of the campaign, President Trump went to places where everybody knew it was a close race, but there's no way Trump was going to win. And he campaigned harder. He was doing whistle stops at 1 a.m. in Florida to talk to people at rallies. He ran harder than anybody had ever run in those last 2 weeks. And the vote eased up so high, Hillary couldn't believe it. The people around her, what? You mean he beat us? We had everything cooked. The sacrifice had everything in it just right. How could he possibly win? So what happened in 2020 was they pulled all the safeties off the election. They stopped the vote at 2:30 in the morning so they could change it whatever the numbers were. And they cheated harder than they'd ever cheated before. And we caught them. And that's what even a modest investigation prior to the certification of the vote would have found. And that's what the people around Biden, the people in the Democratic Party, the rhinos in the Republican Party all knew. Even the most modest real investigation would have shown that the elections were cooked at places all across the country, just like Tina's there in Mesa County. And that's why they had to go into the computers, into the Dominion machines, and wipe clean the history and do a trusted build and service the machine to put new numbers in, so that if you look at a machine here, a machine there, a machine someplace else, you can't even see how they cooked it. That's what they were doing. And that's why if we had done a timely pause, investigated the vote just in those half dozen states where it was the worst, we'd have seen the interference, and we'd have seen what Radcliffe from the Office of Director of National Intelligence said. China interfered in our election. The only question was how much weight to give it. How bad was it? Not did they do it or not. And while these guys wanted us to think it was Russia, it wasn't Russia either time. It was China. That's who our real opponent is now. China, China, China. And all the intelligence agencies know that. If we do an honest investigation now, when Trump's back in, we'll prove all of that in a heartbeat. It's going to be China ultimately that we find cooked our books, cooked the election, and is our true enemy in what's going on in America today.
So well said. Thank you. Wow. So one more question. Can you tie all that into the Brunson case so people can understand that and what will unfold with all of that?
Okay.
Thanks.
Hit that mute there. Here's the deal with the Brunson case. Every effort that we have, I have a group, a coalition, and we did the largest election integrity group of hearings across the country, 20 states over the last year. Also had the largest group of candidates. Tina was one of them, running for Secretary of State and other positions in the country. All of those candidates, Rachel Hamm, Jim Marchant, candidates in these positions, just like Tina, across the country running for Secretary of State, and they all got challenged super hard. All of what we would call the mega candidates, the Make America Great Again candidates within the candidates coalition that we formed, coming, the core of it was, yes, Nevada, but we brought all these candidates in and then built it out over time to the largest candidates group in the country. All of those candidates were accosted. They were attacked within the GOP, because they were all Republican, to try and kick them out before they could even get on in the primaries. And then in the primaries, they were attacked even harder. Fincham in Arizona. I can't think of all the other ones off the top of my head. I'm kind of racing through it. But at the end of the day, all these candidates were attacked very, very hard. And we look at a case like the Brunson case. The criminality in not allowing a lawful investigation where there is signs of interference in the election. collusion, tweaking, whether it be the machines or the ballots or where the ballots go, empty vacant lots, 200 ballots to one apartment and, in a building or something like that. Had Congress just paused and looked at the 2020 vote as 100 members of Congress asked for, they'd have found that criminality almost instantaneously. Even a cursory review would have uncovered it. You had 32 attorney generals, led by Ken Paxton out of Texas, that said something is wrong in these 6 states. And we need the Supreme Court to step in and order that there's some kind of an investigation into those 6 states, the way that they're running their elections. Even within the state, they're violating their own state law in the way that they're doing the drop boxes and the mail-out ballots and things like that. We need help. And the Supreme Court said, no, it's a state's thing, even though it's a federal election. So what happened is, with the Brunson brothers suit, it says that Congress violated the protection, violated their oaths to the American people and to protect the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that they violated their oath of office to protect us from criminals who might cook the vote. It's a very simple case. I was critiquing the case with one of the law attorneys that teaches. He's a law professor at one of the major universities. And we were looking at this Brunson case, and he said, they could have made a stronger case on why Congress had to do this investigation, because there's all sorts of evidence from Director Radcliffe over at Homeland Security that there was Chinese interference. There's all sorts of information at the Senate Intelligence Committee. The Director of National Intelligence, the day after Congress certified the election, the day after, on January 7th, Director of National Intelligence Radcliffe sent a report to the Senate Intelligence Oversight Committee, and Director Radcliffe didn't mince words. Serious information about Chinese interference in our election exists. And the only thing in question is how much weight to give it. But he took a stand and said it was monumental, it was huge, it was dramatic. I'm using my terms, not his, and needs to be seriously investigated. Well, at the Senate Intelligence Oversight Committee, excuse me, too late. They already certified the election. Why didn't Radcliffe give the report on January 5th or sooner? They had the information long before. He was talking about it all the way back at December 15th, 3 weeks earlier, saying there's Chinese interference and it's a serious thing. But he doesn't provide the actual report because they didn't want to politicize the information about Chinese interference. What's political about it? It's an attack on our Constitution. The Constitution, people need to burn this into their brains. When we say that they're not protecting the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, another way of saying that might be clearer to most citizens, it sounds like it's just a piece of paper and whatever. No. The Constitution is the contract between our government and our citizenry. It's the agreement that lays out the terms of how the government operates, what it can and cannot do, what it must do, what it must not do. And if they violate that contract, then the government isn't protecting the people, which is its entire reason for existing. So when the Congress people did not protect the Constitution, they violated their oaths of office to protect the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. to protect the contract between the government and the people against all enemies, foreign and domestic. What is more core to the contract than that the people get to decide who reigns and rules over them, who has lawful positions of authority within their community, within their household, their state? If you can't vote the people that will represent you, that's taxation without representation. Why did we fight the Revolutionary War against England? Because we couldn't elect the people who were administering over us with government. We were being taxed, but we had no representation to say, well, that tax isn't fair. That tax is too much. Taxation without representation. When you can't make your vote count, when somebody else can cheat your vote, then you don't have a government of the people, by the people, for the people. You have a government of somebody else's choice, instituted to control you for their purposes, for their benefit, for their gain, and you don't have representation. So that's disenfranchisement. That would be like any slave not getting to have a vote. You're a slave in this house. You will do what you're told to do. You will not argue. You do not have license to give your opinion. Shut up and do what you're told. That's no representation. When your vote is nullified, canceled, taken away, given to someone else, where your weight of your votes, you're only 2/3 of a person. The other guy gets a preferred vote. He gets to vote 2 times for every one you get to vote. That's disenfranchisement. This case, the Brunson case, attacks a vote that everybody felt and understood and believed, and many knew, was a crooked, corrupt vote in 2020 that needed at least some modest investigation in order to uncover the criminality in the way the vote was conducted and counted. Congress didn't want the Director of National Intelligence report. Congress could have paused and said, okay, we're not certifying the vote until Director Radcliffe presents us his report. We're not certifying the vote until we send a note over to the FBI and the CIA and tell them to get their information to us immediately. Get it to the Senate Intelligence Oversight Committee. Get it to the House committee that may be appropriate related to elections. Whatever committee you want to get it here now. We're not going to certify the vote till we find out what the hell's going on, that we have directors of intelligence agencies telling us that China interfered and it was significant, and other agency directors are saying, no problem. It's nothing. Move along. Ignore it. How come we have this divide between various intelligence agency heads? Some saying it was huge China interference, others saying no big deal. Well, were the ones saying no big deal on the payroll from Hunter or someone else or from Chinese agents? Did we have infiltration? Why are we getting a disagreement here? That alone was simple cause that Congress should have paused and done an investigation. And this case doesn't purport to know the answer or care about the answer. Congress could have done an investigation, cooked the books and said nothing here. They could have done a 4-hour investigation and met the letter of the law and said, no, we took a couple testimony from a couple people, just like the January 6th committee. They could have done a Star Chamber thing, probably got away with it. And they said, no, we did an investigation, and this case would not exist. But they could not even do a half day of investigation. They could not allow a report from the Director of National Intelligence like showed up the next day to the Senate Intelligence Oversight Committee. They could not allow that in the room because they proceed with the vote would have been clearly an attack on their oath to the country, protect the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, to protect the voters and their contract with their government against an attack by enemy forces. So for all those reasons, the congressional members, House and Senate, plus Pence, should be removed from office because they skipped past, lackadaisically, nonsensically, they skipped past their oaths and obligations to protect the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, did a vote without any investigation, even though a third of the members of Congress demanded it and made a reasonable request. Just give us a 10-day investigation. We got to find out what's going on. They wouldn't even lift a finger to do that, placed America in peril. And the last 2 years of drama in America, remember, votes mean things, votes count, stuff happens. When you see oil production drop to the ground in America, and we're buying oil offshore again, when Trump had us producing more oil than we needed, and we were exporting oil, and now we're paying monstrously higher gas taxes, which is a tax on the American economy. When you see the economy in trouble with high inflation, where we're seeing unheard of inflation numbers, 40-year highs, and still headed north, going higher. When you see us on the verge of nuclear war in Eastern Europe that could spread right here to America. Remember, Russia just deployed its Belgorod submarine, which has the ability to fire nuclear-powered torpedoes that can travel anywhere in the world at depths that submarines normally don't travel at and that we're normally not able to look at. Torpedoes that can move at high speed and then get parked off the coasts of America, and which they claim can cause tsunamis. And of course, that's related to the ground features under the water that they would use in order to cause a shape charge type detonation. Not that the explosion itself would be a tsunami, but only using underwater features. So the long and short of it is, America on multiple fronts is in a perilous crisis situation that would not exist, I guarantee it, if Trump, who won the 2020 election, had been given the victory. America would not be on the precipice of some type of calamitous disaster today. Elections have consequences. Stolen elections have consequences. This lawsuit addresses the criminality amongst the members of Congress who, in a criminal fashion, failed to protect America from a stolen vote, certified an election that suited their purposes against the best interests of the American people, in violation of their oaths to protect the American people from all enemies, foreign and domestic, via the Constitution, the contract with our government. And therefore, those people should be removed from office immediately. The election decertified because they voted in violation of their oaths. Trump recognized as the ongoing president, and then the build out begin for America to climb out of this hole that these monsters have set us in and get us back on an even keel, setting the ship of state onto a new course away from the rocks in the middle of this storm that we're in right now.
Jill, we can't hear you. Can't hear you. Juan, that was amazing. That really was amazing. It makes so much sense. And the way you tie it together, I'm going to have to re-listen to this when we're done and really do the recall on it, because that was a great amount of information that a lot of people need to hear. I'm just really appreciative. Yeah.
Oh, I see somebody mouth moving, but I don't hear the words. Yeah, you're muted over there.
It makes me wonder how we're going to move forward. And I think that this is a great case that will help teach the American people about our constitutional rights and what that means and our freedom. And I think you're right. If we don't have a vote, we don't have a voice. And we haven't had a vote for a long time. You know, I honestly never realized that there was such election fraud. I had no idea that there was that there was stifling of speech, you know, through social media. So this has been a great experience of history and teaching me too about what it means for us to have sovereignty and to be free, and what it is we want for our republic and how to go forward.
Yeah. You know, the one thing I will tell you, gals, is this. With broadcasts like yours all across the country, coming from different directions, more and more people are kind of understanding with more precision what's been going on. Tina Peters is an excellent example, because when her constituents within her county came to her telling her that they were worried about the election data, Tina Peters has said repeatedly she poo-pooed them and blew it off because she believed that Mesa County, Colorado was literally the gold standard for elections. She herself, being the clerk for Mesa County, Colorado, she believed that her machines and the way the vote was conducted was the cleanest, straightest, most honest vote you could get in America, that they were the example, the shining light to counties all across America to get a straight, honest vote in an election. And it was only a process where she had the machine forensically backed up, just because people were making all these claims. There was a lot of contention about the 2020 election. It didn't seem to quite, make sense. It didn't make sense to her or anybody else the way that this election had gone. So she went ahead and did this forensic copy. And it was only subsequently, when they realized there was a difference between the before and after, and it was huge, and there was all sorts of programs added and deleted and all sorts of things, that the scales fell from her eyes. Election officials across America are having similar experiences. And then the other thing that's causing people to pause and take a second look is all the pushback from the companies and the politicians, the bureaucrats, even the people who certified this vote on January 6th, 2020. How does it make sense that they wouldn't have just done a 10-day investigation? It wouldn't even have stopped the inauguration day. Just a 10-day simple investigation. Everybody go back, double check, look at the books and make sure. Why? Because they liked the outcome. Because they wanted the outcome. They didn't want justice, and they didn't want to get caught in it because they knew something was wrong. They were participants. There's sins of commission, things that you do, and there's sins of omission, things that you don't do that you should do. This was a sin of omission at the very least. They omitted to do a simple investigation and place the country at risk. The dramas, the deaths, the displacement in the Ukraine of millions of people out across Europe can be traced directly to the vote by the House and the Senate on January 6th, 2021. If President Trump had been recognized and continued as president, the dramas in the Ukraine, bringing America to the brink of nuclear war, would not be occurring today. The millions displaced out of the Ukraine, lives destroyed, businesses, all of the drama, the thousands and thousands dead, would not have occurred. Trump would never have allowed it. You got to think about that. And that is on America's hands, we as a people, because the people that represent us did not represent us properly to do the things that we wanted done, because the people that we actually elected to office never got to get there. A fraud occurred right in plain sight. If we allow it to stand, the guilt is on us as a people. We have to fight for policing within our own house to get justice done in America, starting with this vote. And this case is an opportunity for us, the American people, to set right a horrible, terrible, vicious wrong that has already cost thousands of lives in Eastern Europe. And unchecked, not reversed, has the likelihood of ending up in nuclear war for planet Earth, with millions and millions dead on both sides, because the wrong people are in the wrong places. They should be in Gitmo and beyond, and they're running our country. They should be in a madhouse being given drugs to sedate them, and they're running our country. The maniacs, the swamp creatures, the insaniacs are running America, and we have not, as a people, been able to find a way to put an end to it. This case, with the support of the American people, these justices who stopped another evil, Roe versus Wade, becoming the law of the land, this court has proven that they're willing to revisit injustices in America being foisted on the American people. This court said a previous court erred in finding that there was a federal position, a federal authority that allowed them to mandate that abortions be illegal across the country, a federal mandate, and returned it to the states. An earlier court erred. I am telling you here within this audience, this legislation, this certification, those that voted to certify the election without the benefit of any investigation erred. And they erred in a lethal way. Lives have been lost, and more will be lost until that evil, that sin of omission, looking the other way, not doing an investigation to get to the truth of what happened in the election, until that is reversed, lives will continue to be lost. And the guilt is on the American people. We have to pray and ask for divine intervention, for guts of titanium and backbones of titanium and beyond, with those justices who already overturned Roe versus Wade, to address this evil and overturn this unlawful certification of the election, kick those people to the curb, out to the street, and then refer all of them for criminal investigation, both by the Justice Department and by military authorities, for treason and collusion with foreign enemies when they certified the vote on January 6th, 2021.
When I lived in Venezuela, I experienced a coup. And I think that this is kind of like an internal coup. Nobody realized that that we were having like a foreign government come in through interference in our elections and take over our government. That's kind of how I see it.
Repeat that, Melz, 'cause I think he cut out.
Yeah, I said when I lived in Venezuela, it is bad here. I lived through a coup attempt, and I kind of see this like an internal coup through election fraud. That it was, they've been doing it for a long time, but it was a way for them to infiltrate without an invasion. And the American people didn't, they don't realize it through Project Mockingbird, that they've had their rights taken away, that they've had their vote and their voice taken away.
I agree. I mean, you have media personalities who got money from three-letter agencies to cook the conversations that the American people were hearing and allowed to talk about. Actually, one host getting paid to shut down other hosts at major media outlets to not even talk about things like the birth certificate or FISA violations, etc. And so the conversation, even the Twitter stuff with all of the bots, the fake accounts, cooking the way conversations were had. And I know more on that than I talk about somewhere down the road. I'll talk about that in precise detail. But we had to fight fake accounts in order to change the way the media covered things. And we accomplished that earlier this year at a critical moment. And it was literally millions of fake accounts over at Twitter. It's insane.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know that I would have believed it had I not experienced it, because in my mind, I really wasn't on social media. The only reason I went on was because something happened when COVID came out. I didn't believe that the story was real, so I wanted to find out the truth. And then I found you, and here we are.
I think we've had a lot of great information today, and I need to process all of it. I'm so excited to re-listen to it. This really, truly has been great. Tina Peters is a wonderful, wonderful woman, great warrior, and she's fighting for the right reasons. The Brunson brothers, oh man, I salute to them majorly. They are just, I think they are truly instruments chosen by God for this time, and for a lot of the American people that have no idea what's going on, don't even have any recollection to an election being stolen. I think that there's going to be a lot of eyes opening up. And you, Juan, you're just so wonderful. And every time you do something, I listen with intent, and I really appreciate it. The way that you are able to tell stories, especially biblically, it's great. And I don't know if we can hear you, Jill. Can we hear you? Can you want to try?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. I was having some tech issues. Yeah, no, I just think we can conclude this, but I just want to say to the audience too, and any last comments you want to make, Juan, but we will be posting this and in the comments when we put it up to Rumble, and we will share this out in a few days, but we will have everything in there from your Gumroad, how to get Kid by the Side of the Road. I will include the jennifermac.com store so they can know where to get your jacket that we love, the El Magador. I got to get one of those next.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
I'm going to have to get one in case I don't make it to Texas. So yeah, and I just want to say too, Juan, we just appreciate so much you coming in here, because this is the conversation America needs to have. This is the information that they're not getting out in the news. And I'm, like I said, my frustration with even my friends who love Trump, but they just think, oh, it's an election. They think it's all okay, that it was just, they don't understand how bad it was rigged. And so my last question for you, Juan, I've been thinking about this all day. Since we've identified the fact that the Supreme Court, with this particular case in front of them right now that we discussed with Loy and Tina Peters, if they can move at any moment, we don't really know how it's going to unfold. If they don't do anything right now, do you think this goes to January 6th? And what are your thoughts that would happen then? And my second part of the question is, I just can't see at what point either way where the military doesn't move in if they have so much evidence. And I just don't, I can't imagine that they won't move in, because they have a right to protect the people. They have a right to defend us because our Congress didn't do their job.
Well said, Jill.
Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say that was well said, Jill.
Well, let me just say this. First of all, it's not a right; it's an obligation. But optics are really important. The American public had, say, the military had Trump sign the Insurrection Act on December 18th of 2020 because of all the evidence, the information that was coming in, and then the Director of National Intelligence not in compliance with an executive order, and the heads of the intelligence agencies not complying with an executive order to report on any information related to foreign interference in the election. Had he signed the Insurrection Act, unfortunately, what happened with Lincoln is what would have happened with America. And the generals that advised the president overnight on the 18th into the morning of the 19th concurred on this, that by degrees, America would have gone into civil war. Within a matter of months, we'd have had some kind of civil war in America because the public was still too divided over what happened. Even people that voted for Trump wouldn't have wanted to have some civil, conflict. And so you'd have had something close to 50-50. Maybe it's 60-40. Maybe it's 70-30. But the fight's on, and it would have been very destructive for America, and it would have gone kinetic. President Trump very wisely took the advice of his military counselors and paused on signing the Insurrection Act. People speculated he had all along. He didn't. And he said directly, I did not sign the Insurrection Act. So he did that to protect America because we couldn't have survived what would have happened. The nation, the people were just too divided, too closely, too evenly divided. What has happened in the intervening period is that more and more people have seen the consequences of this election, the inflation, the shutdown of the oil production here in America. Energy makes the world go round. You shut down energy production in America, you choke back the economy. The business of America's business. It's a tax. It throttles, it chokes out the life out of America, puts a muzzle on them. This war situation, all the money sent to the enemies of America and to justice. We're backing groups in the Ukraine who worship the Nazi mentality that we fought against in World War II, who wear all the tattoos over their body and think Hitler was the savior of mankind. And we, America, are backing them. Men, families who made horrendous sacrifices in the Second World War are rolling over in their graves in that great stadium in the sky above us. Those souls watching us today on the field of play are questioning, are you realizing the sacrifice that we made of our life? And you're paying those people? You're supporting them in this fight? Have you lost your minds? But at this exact moment in America, having had the intervening 22, 23 months, we now know what these people are about and how they choose to govern, what they want to do, what the world is like under their governance. We as a people have had a near-death experience as America. We need to pray, cry out to God himself. Please, God, save us, not this future. Don't let us go into this hell and remain here while there's still a silvery thread to grasp onto. We cry out to God, pull us out of this hell. We want to make a change. We want to live differently. We want to reset everything. And this case is the reset. It cancels out much of the evil that has occurred, moves us back in time, brings the lawful president who did win the 2020 election clearly back into power, and we can start to climb out of this madness, this mess, this chaos that America is mired down in. And not only for us alone, but for the whole world. We throw the criminals in jail. All of the criminality is referred so that justice can be done at the Justice Department. And justice can be done within the military tribunals to put an end to the criminal captured state that controls America, this deep state bull that's rampaging over America and the world and destroying everything in its path. Trump is the Magador, delivers the kill shot, and his arrival on the scene is announced by the 4 trumpeteers, the wild card in this whole game. It's a straight flush win. Trumpeteers across the board. God wins. God's people win. America gets a reset and a restart, and we climb out of this hellhole that we're in right now.
And it's a little ironic. It's a little ironic that the Brunson brothers all played trumpets. I mean, it's amazing.
It is amazing. And while we've been doing this today, so Elon Musk, in about 40 minutes, he said that this is what he said an hour ago. What really happened with the Hunter Biden story suppression by Twitter will be published on Twitter at 5 p.m. Eastern. And then a couple minutes ago, he said that we're double checking on some facts. So probably start live tweeting in about 40 minutes. So, whoa.
Well, again, the public, the optics, instead of being 60 or 70% against 30 or 40%, it's now crossed this 80+% threshold. And the beauty of this moment is more and more Americans are waking up by the hour. We're solidly in the zone where if the Supreme Court acts, then we don't go into civil war. There will be civil unrest. There will be civil discourse. But the numbers on the side wanting some type of justice, reversal, reset, are in that 80 percentile. Not that they're Trump lovers, not Trump supporters necessarily, but they understand that something's wrong with the vote, something's wrong with Washington, D.C., something has to be done. And when the court acts, should it choose to act on this case, the people will be solidly behind it. And while there might be civil unrest, civil discourse, there will not be civil war. Now, when this might happen, by the way, you asked me the question, can the court act at any time? They received this case on the basis of a national security emergency. So even though the case is set for a January 6th conclave to decide whether or not formally take the case and have justices vote on it, the reality is because national security was raised in bringing the case to the Supreme Court, and they're very aware of that, and some type of national emergency potentially existing, they could act at any minute, call a conclave. A majority of justices could decide something literally within hours. If only 4 justices decide they want to take the case, they could have a review of it. The reality is the justices are already reviewing this case. It's already firmly in the grip of at least one of the justices, and probably several, because the clerk of the court has been reaching out to the Brunson brothers for months to race this case, to move it rapidly to the court. So they're very aware of what's going on in there. And because national security is involved, the justices could decide on a dime to immediately review the case, call a conclave at 3 a.m. This is aimed at this Congress that's out of control. This is aimed at this administration, which is out of its mind. And this court has been given a loaded gun with the trigger cocked and a round in the chamber and a full magazine. If Congress or this administration go too far off the rails. This court could act very, very rapidly, and they're not constrained to wait till January 6th. All the reasonable minds out there will tell you that most likely it'll just go to January 6th. They'll do a meeting. They'll decide if they want to hear the case further, and this is going to stretch out till spring or, late spring, summer, before they finally decide to come to some kind of a finding, etc. And we just go on with life as we are, and the 2022 election continues on and everything else. And in a normal world, all of those friends who are very good friends of mine, who are real geniuses, who've lived in this environment forever, would be absolutely correct. Nothing significant is going to happen very soon. And even when the Supreme Court acts, it's going to be understated. It's not going to be anything hyper dramatic. And the only retort that I have to all of that, in a normal situation, the way the world's been going for the last 100 years politically here in America, I'd agree, you're right, and we're all out of our minds. But this is the court that reversed 50 years of settled law with the Roe versus Wade reversal and said an earlier court erred. This is the court that is under attack by this legislature and by this Senate and by this administration, who are ganging up against this court, threatening to pack the court, threatening to change term limits, and to change the balance of power in America's legal arena forever, to stop a court like this from doing what it's doing right now. The court members who voted Roe versus Wade, which was a majority of the court, believe they're under attack because of Roe versus Wade, and they're willing, and I believe they're telegraphing, even in pulling this case to themselves on a rapid basis, that they will pull the trigger if needed to protect America, kill the deep state beast, head and heart, and save America. And I believe that they are operating just as they did with Roe versus Wade, under the divine unction of God's own spirit, coming against this culture of death that has captured America's political environment. This culture of death, which is the platform of the Democratic Party, which is the mindset of the Rhino Republicans, doing this dance with evil. And God himself has heard the moans and the cries of the American people and the world, because our military, our State Department, our political machine, our finances are being used to damage the whole world, starting with Ukraine. God himself has decided to inject himself into this conversation enough. And he's going to use this court that has acted correctly in reversing Roe versus Wade to reflect the will of the people. And he will act to reverse these monsters in the way that they're controlling and enslaving America to do their will against God's will and against the people's will, joined with a divine unction to stop this death culture, not just in America, but pervading out across the world from winning. Satan loses, the Baal worshipers lose, they're done, God wins. That's what I'm praying for. That's why we're here. God bless America.
Well,
Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you so much. I think this is a great place to conclude this one. Again, thank you for all your time today. We'll get this out, and we'll get all the links to the websites. And I also want to say for the audience too, there's Tina Peters' documentary, Selection Code, is excellent, and we'll get that put in there too. And thank you for everybody today. Thank you, my cohorts, the Warriorettes, right? It's our
Gosh, I got to get you girls in. You girls that look great in the Megador jackets. You know, I think that's going to be one of those things down the road. People are all going to want to be able to be counted in their Megador jackets. I just have had so much fun with them. But I'd love to see the Trumpeteers doing a Brunson in their Megador jackets. Can you see
that would
Trump?
be so fun.
Can you see Trump doing a Brunson with taking out the deep state when he does it? You know.
And in one, you're going to be in Mar-a-Lago, and Loy's going to be joining you.
Yeah, we're heading over to Mar-a-Lago right now, and
okay.
There's a Moms for America thing on Sunday. I've got a couple things this week, but I've also got some other stuff in the background. So even though I could literally be at Mar-a-Lago every day this week on something, I've got to juggle other stuff behind the scenes that's even more critical, because we're not just, it's fun to rub shoulders with everybody and be there, but there's other mechanical things that need to be done to be in position at the right place at the right time for what we hope may happen over the course of the month here. So game's on. We're fully stay focused.
Is the live event tomorrow?
Sunday.
It could be a live podcast.
Oh no! A lot of fun. Kim Flight, who put this on, she was there in the January 6th thing. They classified her as a terrorist because she had a little booth off to the side that she had actually got permission to have, got a permit to have, because she was there handing out stuff. Moms for America. By the way, Tina is a gold star mom. Lost her son in service to America. And when they went into Tina's house, Tina had received his footlocker, which she placed at the foot of her bed after her son died. All of his possessions removed from his room, packed away carefully, the flag that was on his casket, everything put inside of a footlocker, placed at the foot of her bed. When the FBI and the Colorado agents came in and searched her house, she had never opened that footlocker since her son died. They took everything out of it, strewed it around the room, stepped on it, didn't care, walking all over the place. It's like what they did in the president's residence at Mar-a-Lago. And the FBI agents are pulling the dress up in front of them, looking at all of her wardrobe, okay, having a laugh. It's on the video cameras that they told them to shut off. These people have a mentality that is an affront to us as citizens. They could easily have done what they had to do without being vicious, without being disrespectful. We treat Gold Star moms different than anyone else for a reason. And we stopped at last year's Moms for America. There was a Gold Star mom there who wanted to say hi to the president, wanted to shake his hand, and everybody else was getting in there and waving at. She didn't actually want to talk to him. She just wanted to get a picture of him. But she was a little shorter, and she couldn't get her camera up high enough to get a picture as he was moving through the crowd. I said, Gold Star mom, make a way. Gold Star mom, Gold Star mom. And the crowd divided, allowed her right up to the president. She got to spend a moment or two with him, talk with him. He gave her a big hug 3 times. And paused. The president paid respect to a Gold Star mom because that's what we do. Even in a crowd of all these people, we pay a different kind of respect to families whose children have been lost in service to the country. And they did not respect a woman who they knew was a Gold Star mom and her possessions, even to her son's footlocker. They trampled on those parts, those pieces of her life, his life that remained, because they do not respect Americans and American sacrifice. It's wrong. It goes to the core of their mentality. And that is the bull trampling about the planet, just like in the tale of Gilgamesh. And we must put an end to that mentality being able to boisterously disrupt and destroy the American way of life. that the pilgrims came here, prayed to God to have, and that was supposed to be here all the way along. We're gonna take them out. We're not going to allow that.
So Juan, I do have a hard stop because I do have to get somewhere in about 30 minutes, but let's just conclude it here. They don't have, I just like they don't have God in their soul, or I don't know what it is. The God-fearing people that live up here and everywhere around this country that are good people, they just trample on all of us. And Tina really took the brunt for it, and it's sad. But anyway, you guys, you want to close this out? We want to do our little closing here?
Yes.
Okay, so ladies and Juan, again, thank you so much. So we always like to say at the end of the day, in a quick prayer, you want to say a prayer real quick, Juan, and then we'll close it out.
All right. Father God, I ask you for every person in this audience that you would speak to them personally, give them a way that they can honor you and your will right there in their community, in order to bring about your justice in America. We ask you to bind and stop every one of those people who certified an election against the interests of the American people, against the interests of your people, Father God, and that you would remove them from office, that you would give the Supreme Court justices the right understanding, direction, inner fortitude, backbones of titanium in order to move forward, just as they did on Roe versus Wade, to stop the frauds in the elections in America and the buying of America through those politicians. We ask for your protection, your provision in these tumultuous times, and we pray for President Trump and his family with all the dramas ahead for them, that they will come through this in a way that pleases you, honors the American people, and saves America to a new future, a proper future, where you are the God over America. In Jesus' name, by the blood of Christ. Thank you, Father.
Amen.
And by the way, I was coaching a couple of you. So when you do your Where We Go One, We Go All, you should do it with a Brunson at the end. Because the Brunson, you should, where we going, we go all.
With the trumpet. I'll have to get him to record one. So with that said,
We're just trying to keep it like we're just trying to actually get it on time.
We're trying to get it on time.
What do I got to pay you? You know, the Brunson's dad paid him to do it. Do I got to pay you so you can practice to get it right? Come on, let's go.
We practice, though.
Okay,
We
I'll
practice.
pay you in cookies.
I'll pay you in cookies.
I'll pay you in cookies. These are good ones. These are monster cookies.
That looks good.
Okay, so here we go. With that said, where we go one,
we go all.
Thank you. Hey,
All right, girls.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Have
a
fun.
good
Safe travels.
Safe
All
travels.
right,
Yes.
folks.
Thanks. Bye.
I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord. Soldier in the army. I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord.
our other stars, Susan Calloway, a little closeout video.
Save our children. Save our children. This ain't a movement, this is real life. We all need to stand up and we need to fight. Fight for our children and fight for their life. We need to save. See, back in my day, we could play up on the sidewalk, ride our bikes around the block, even after dark. Draw a picture on the ground with some chalk, playing basketball to sundown and skateboarding on the asphalt. I got nephews dreaming about doing things that I did, They can't even go up to an ice cream truck without putting their life at risk. Damn.
Last year, Human Trafficking Hotline identified over 22,000 trafficking victims and survivors last year. Of those, almost 15,000 were cases of sex trafficking. Use your voice. You can make a difference and save a life.
Save our children.
Oh yeah, thanks everybody watching the Tina Peters replay. Loy Brunson, Juan O Savin, and the leads MelzieKaye, Adge, and Jillski, and of course beautiful baby boy Elijah there watching as well. Thanks everybody. Have a beautiful, wonderful time Saturday, Sunday, whatever the days you call it. I won't say the weekend. Strength ends, y'all.